This man is enraged when he discovers that a maid at his hotel has breached her contract by being pregnant, so he fires her. Little does he know the pregnancy he's furious about will change his life forever. Unlike other employees at the hotel, Heather didn't smile when she walked into the premises, nor did she greet her colleagues in the doorman. Instead, she shuddered every time she crossed the hotel's front door, afraid of the lies deep in her heart. 6 months ago, Heather's entire world had changed. She'd gone from being a frivolous woman to a responsible adult struggling to support herself and her baby. Heather was pregnant, and none of the employees at the hotel knew it. When she first joined the job, she had read the contract twice, and her hands trembled as she read the terms and conditions. Single mothers are not qualified for the position. Heather was very much a single mama-to-be and jobless and heartbroken. She had to drop out of college after her boyfriend walked out on her, claiming he wasn't ready to become a father. To Heather, it had seemed like something inside her had died that day, but she had delicately caressed her belly where the little life was growing and said, "Mama's not leaving you, baby. No matter what, we will fight. I will fight." Heather had always been like that, a loving and caring woman who wanted a big family. But fate had other plans, and the man she had loved had broken her trust and dreams. If only fate had been kinder, Heather could have at least sought her relatives' help to care for her baby. But unfortunately, she was an orphan with nobody in this world to hug her and console her and tell her that it was all going to be okay, that her baby would be okay. So when Heather realized she had to deal with her problems on her own, she dropped out of college and began looking for a job. A young woman with no degree and no work experience was who she was, so she struggled a lot. But then she came across an opening at the Seaside Paradiso. Heather could never forget that day. It was a bright sunny day and birds were merrily chirping in the morning sky. Nothing seemed wrong with the outside world, but Heather felt like her existence was becoming bleak and uncertain and pointless. She'd received her 5th rejection letter that morning and she didn't feel she had the strength to keep going. Then somehow, after crying for hours, she stumbled upon a job opening for a maid at the luxury hotel, the Seaside Paradiso. "They'll never hire me," she'd thought, filling out the job application in tears. "I won't be able to give my baby a good life. I failed at everything." That's how depressed Heather had been when she applied for the job at the hotel, but the moment she checked her email 2 weeks later changed everything. "Congratulations on your selection," the mail read. Heather had cried and laughed and cried again when she was miraculously offered the position. Things were changing and becoming better, she'd thought. Then on her first day at the hotel, she was asked to sign the contract of employment and her face changed color when she read the single mothers were not allowed for the role. "That's a weird clause, don't you think so?" She smiled nervously at the woman who was also hired for the job. "I've heard the boss hates single mothers," the woman said with a silly smile. "Honestly, I'm not a huge fan of babies either. Turns out he wants his hotel to have peace and quiet and he wants to avoid the whole single mother mess," she said, making quotes with her fingers. Single mother mess was a very rude term to use, Heather thought. At one point, she hesitated to sign the contract and wanted to turn around and leave. But she had responsibilities now, and previously she hadn't been able to get a job anywhere else. So Heather hid the truth from everyone and became a maid at the Seaside Paradiso. She took a risk by joining the job but didn't have a choice. She lied about the morning sickness during her pregnancy as exhaustion and stress, and when her baby bump became more conspicuous, she began wearing baggy clothes and a coat over her uniform. One day she fainted while cleaning a room, but luckily she managed to cover it up with the excuse that she'd skipped breakfast. But lies have a way of getting out, and Heather soon found herself in hot water. She had just left a suite after cleaning it and wasn't wearing her overcoat that day. As she drew the trolley outside and turned around, she froze in place at the sight of the man behind her. Also, if you have not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these real-life stories every day. Now, back to the story. "Mr. Faulkner, have a good day," she wished her boss as she hurriedly pulled the cleaning trolley in front of her, but Heather knew it was too late. "Are you pregnant?" Mr. Faulkner asked angrily, his gaze fixed on the baby bump. "How long has this been going on? Jesus, how are you hired?" "No, it's not what you think, please," Heather begged. "I can explain." "My office 10 minutes, he fumed. And oh, don't expect me to keep you here any longer, but I do want to know how you pulled this con off. This is absolutely crazy." Heather couldn't keep her tears at bay. She couldn't believe her secret was out and that she'd lose her job now. Shivering in anxiety, Heather walked into Mr. Faulkner's office and his first words were, "You're fired, but certainly I deserve to know how long you've been taking the pay unlawfully by breaching the contract." "I'm sorry," Heather said quietly. "I didn't intend to. I really shouldn't have done it. In some ways I felt compelled." "Look, I don't need your excuses, okay? I asked you a question and you can leave if you don't have an answer. The exit's right behind you." Heather couldn't utter a word and stood still, a stinking pain growing in her baby bump. "What, are you gonna accuse me of being cruel now because I'm firing someone who was illegally working at my hotel?" he asked. "Sorry, please don't fire me," she said. "I needed the job for—" "Now that's the whole reason I don't like women, you know," he interrupted her. "Why do you all have to be the same, lying, shedding tears, deceitful? And oh God, you had the audacity to work under my nose by violating established procedures? Where do you get the guts, Miss Heather?" he remarked sarcastically, looking at her name badge. I didn't mean to, Mr. Faulkner, she said softly. I really had to get the job and… All right then, he cut her off again. I no longer require you on the job. That being said, I also don't think I can stand your pitiful face any longer, so help yourself and leave my hotel before I call security. I hope you know how to listen to someone, huh? Can I… Out Miss Heather now. In the end, Heather had to leave and Mr. Faulkner was fuming in rage. What a strange woman, he muttered angrily under his breath as she left. Suddenly, a loud thud outside his office distracted his attention. Mr. Faulkner dashed outside only to find Heather on the ground and realize her water had broken. What a mess. Oh my god, this is crazy, he sighed. He pulled out his phone from his pocket and dialed 911 immediately, but after seeing Heather's condition, he knew he didn't have time to lose. I so wish I wasn't caught in this mess, he grumbled as he dialed his driver. Mr. Faulkner rushed Heather to the hospital in his car, and while he didn't like women and single mothers, he stayed at the hospital with her during the delivery. She used to be an employee at my hotel, take good care of her, he told his staff at the hospital. Mr. Faulkner waited outside the OR, nervously watching doctors hurry in and out. He was hoping Heather was fine because he blamed herself for her condition. Perhaps he shouldn't have yelled at her and been so harsh. After a while, which seemed no less than an eternity to Mr. Faulkner, a nurse approached him and she had good news. The new mother and child are safe, although we had to do a C-section. It's a boy, preemie but healthy, she announced. You can see the patient when she's shifted to the regular ward. God, that's great. Thank you very much, Mr. Faulkner said, sighing with relief. At that point, ignoring his particular dislike for women, Mr. Faulkner decided to ask Heather if she needed any help and wanted to call her relatives, so he decided to meet her. When he entered her ward, he saw her holding a beautiful baby boy in her arms. Are you doing okay? Gently asked. Yes, thank you, she said quietly. Despite what I did, it was very sweet of you to bring us here on time. Thank you, Mr. Faulkner. You're a good man. Well, I don't know. Do you want me to call someone? Husband, family, anyone? Heather's eyes welled up. I don't have anyone, she said. The baby's father didn't want the child and I'm an orphan. That answers your question about why I had to breach the contract and work at your hotel. I'm sorry, but it was necessary. Maybe he'll change his mind, Mr. Faulkner said. I mean, you should try calling him once. I'm a single father, so I know what it's like to raise a child alone. 863, I don't have any hope, but you could try. Heather recited her boyfriend's number to Mr. Faulkner, which he quickly dialed on his phone. He couldn't believe his eyes when he saw the name that popped up on his phone screen. Are you sure? He asked her, shocked. What's wrong? The number you gave me, are you sure this is correct? It's the only contact I know, so I can't be wrong, she said. Mr. Faulkner couldn't believe the baby he was dissing and cursing and hating was his kin. It was his grandson and his only son's child. Heather's irresponsible boyfriend was none other than Mr. Faulkner's son, Josh. I'll have a man-to-man talk with him, please excuse me. Mr. Faulkner exited Heather's ward, called his son, and asked him to hurry to the hospital. When Josh arrived, he was shocked to see his father with a baby in his arms. Time to buckle up, young man, Mr. Faulkner said. How could you leave a woman pregnant and not bother about it? Do you even realize what you've done? Dad, what the hell? Josh cried. Is this Heather's baby? For God's sake, I'm done with her. You're what, done with her? Dad, she was crazy. Asked me to father a child when I didn't want it in the first place. But wait, how do you, I mean, is this really Heather's baby? How do you know her? And even if you do, why do you care? Mr. Faulkner was mortified. He couldn't believe what his disdain of women had done to his son. Mr. Faulkner's wife had cheated on him and abandoned him with Josh, but he loved her despite that. And somewhere that love turned to hatred when she walked out on him and her son. So Mr. Faulkner never taught Josh how important it was for a man to respect women, to respect others around them. Josh thought he could get away with getting a woman pregnant, but Mr. Faulkner was not having any of it. He didn't want Heather to suffer, so he threatened Josh that he'd cut him off from the inheritance and stop supporting him financially if he didn't help Heather take care of her child. Due to the pressure of his father, Josh agreed to support Heather, but Mr. Faulkner knew his son wouldn't mend his ways so quickly. So when Mr. Faulkner was making a will, he had a thought. He dialed his lawyer and said, if something were to happen to me, make sure Heather and her child, this wonderful boy named Terry, don't miss out on anything. I've decided to leave my hotel to Terry and he'll inherit it when he comes of age.